Good evening, everyone. How you doing?
Good.
I'm fine. The two speakers who received me, I am impressed, and we have a standing invitation to come to speak to our students at Shabazz at any time. We will be extending you an invitation. There's a song, it goes like this. No matter where you come from, as long as you're a black man, you're an African. Regardless of your skin color, be it high, low, or in between, you're an African. No matter if you're Catholic, Coptic, Islamist, Baptist, you're an African. Okay? I want to get that out of the way because I'm a Peter Tosh fan. I want to talk to you about cross-cultural exchange. And before I go any further, I want to introduce a member of my staff, a member of your organization, Ms. Beatrice Marithi. Beatrice is one of the top educators, one of the best educators I've seen, and I say that sincerely. Just a wonderful educator.
Africa.
Let me just fill in the blanks, and I'm going to be very brief about myself and my whole love affair with Africa. By the way, the Burundi group, now I know where the Temptations got their moves from. Especially when you turn, that's what Paul used to do. I knew it was from Africa. But anyway, I want to fill in the blanks here. I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama, and my dad was in World War II. So when he went to war, there were two of us, and my mother sent me to live with my grandmother. And that was the start of my African experience, because in that household was also my great-grandmother. My great-grandmother was born in 1862, and she lived to be 102, and my grandmother lived to be 109. So in this household, I got this constant dose of where you're from. And my grandmother used to always say that she was from the East. Later we did research and we found that our descendants came from West Africa to Jamaica, and from Jamaica to South Carolina, and from South Carolina to Alabama. Now, my grandmother always said that when you would ask her, Grandma, where are you from? She would say, I'm from the East. I'm from the East. And we honored our grandmother by, when we buried her, we made sure that she was facing east. Because it was ingrained in me that you're an African. And don't you ever forget it. Now, let's move to 1960. I'm fooling around with the radio, FM. One of the first FM radios that we had in our household. And there is this faint broadcast of a speech. And I'm listening. I'm in high school. And it's Nkrumah, Kwame Nkrumah. And he's speaking to the United Nations. I don't get all of the speech, but he said at the time that there are 13 African nations that were independent. This was 1960. In 1960, 61, I had to do a paper, a senior paper at my high school, Western High in Birmingham. And the name of my paper was Hell in the Congo. And there was a big discussion as to whether or not me as a student could use the word hell. So my teacher changed it to chaos in the Congo. They wouldn't let me use hell. But there I came in contact with names like Kasavubu, Lumumba, Katanga, and whatever. And I was it just opened a whole world. And then I got to college, a historically black college, whose founders were descendants of the Amistad. So it's all coming together. I felt very special because this little college, Talladega College, started in 1867 with the descendants of the Amistad. And by the way, the Amistad murals will be coming to Detroit next year. I hope you get a chance to see those murals. They're from our library. But anyway, to make a long story short, I majored in social studies with an emphasis on economics. And my professor at Talladega was Albert C. Ananye, a Nigerian. And one day, we were sitting there talking. He said, Eugene, I have a tape I want you to listen to. He gave me a small reel-to-reel. And guess what it was? It was a complete speech of Kwame Nkrumah at the United Nations. That changed my life. That changed my life. And by the way, for you folks who are hip, you can get it on iTunes now. That speech is now on iTunes, and I suggest that everyone get a copy of it. I think it is number one, and I think the speech of Martin Luther King is number two. If you hear Mr. Nkrumah speak about a lot of things that are happening today, and he said something I'll never forget. He said, this rising tide of nationalism, this rising tide of nationalism that is sweeping through Africa will bring about changes in Southwest Africa, West Africa, Northeast Africa. He just went on and named the demographic areas. And he was so prophetic in forecasting what we see in Africa today. For example, he mentioned the Chinese. By the way, I was in Ghana, Kwame. I was in Ghana in April. Chinese are all over Ghana. So where the heck they come from? I've been going to Ghana for 17 years. I've never seen that many Chinese. And you know what? They're learning the languages, person. They're learning the languages. You know, and I'm sitting there saying, hi, how you doing, brother, what have you? They're speaking it. But anyway, one of the things that we do at Shabazz Academy, we are an African-centered school, which means that Africa is the epicenter of everything we do. We have a connection. We have a connection. The first time I went to Africa about 17 years ago, I turned down a trip to Paris. I said, the first trip out of the States I want to make is to my homeland, where my grandmother said, you're from the East. I wanted to go east. And when I got there, at that Ghanaian airport, Kwame, which is not the most organized airport, out of Africa. And I looked, it was sociology on the plane. I watched all the sisters go and get their new wigs out of the suitcases to dial up because they were about to land and what have you. I said, wow, look at this. And they still do it. I was in South Africa a couple of years ago. They do the same thing. About 200 miles out, they change hair. We are a beautiful people. And we are a unique people in spite of all the trauma and tragedies and adversity. We are God's gift to the world. I say this all the time. I say this all the time. And we should relish that. Let me tell you this little story. Little girl came to school one day, brown skin, and I said to her, I said, oh, you're getting a tan. It really looks good. She said, really? I said, you're getting a tan. Well, it's good. And then I made the comment, I said, you're going to be as black as me. She said, you tan, Dr. Cain? I said, yes. So I took my watch, and I said, you see that tan there? She said, yeah, but I don't want to ever get as black as you. We still have these issues of race with African Americans, with our color, and our relationship to Africa. Okay, so when I go to Africa, this time when I went to Ghana, I showed no villages, Kwame. I only showed them construction cranes. There are more construction cranes in Accra than there are in Detroit. Okay? The airport is widening. And Chinese are everywhere. But one of the things that we try to do at Shabazz is to get our kids to see that you are connected. You are connected for many reasons. And not only are you connected, you should have a relationship with anyone from the motherland, with anyone. They are not strangers, they're your cousins. They're your cousins. They're your cousins. And your sisters and your brothers. What have we done over the years? This year, in April, my wife, I wish my wife were here. She's been to Africa about 20 times. She goes so much, I'm beginning to get suspicious. I'm beginning to think some old chief has been talking to me. You know, when you go there, everybody you see is a chief. If my wife were here, she would crack up at that, because I say it all the time. Where are you going to Africa? I'm going to the Durban. Well, anyway, we just sent, we took over in April about 5,000 books to a little community, a school called Nchini. And it's a school that when I first went there, it had no roof. One morning I followed these kids who were beating drums and with little benches over their head to a clearing. And I watched them tie these brushes together and sweep the ground and constructed a place for them to study. And when the sun came up, they moved it around. I said, this is amazing. And I said to Maxine, my wife, we gotta do something. I'm happy to say that now, thank you. Is that on African time? Why did you say y'all started about going to the motherland?
Okay, I relate to that.
Okay, but we have sent books, we've sent medical supplies, we've sent we have sent one emergency vehicle that my wife and her friend Barbara Mason, some of you might know Barbara, came upon an accident their first trip there and to Ghana. And there were two young men who were badly burned who could not be transported to Accra, to a major burn center, because they didn't have the vehicle and because the roads were terrible. So this weighed heavily on their minds. So when they came back, they found an ambulance, an emergency vehicle, and my wife, Barbara, and our uncle drove that vehicle all the way to Baltimore, put it on a ship, and sent it to Ghana. We need to do more of that, and we need to see more of you. Please, I always just say to my African friends, don't stay out here in Michigan State. Come see us in Lansing. There's a bunch of us. You would love to see you, and we would love to see you in our schools. We have, over the years, we've hosted a number of our friends call our house the United Nations. We hosted when students at MSU were marching against apartheid. The place they came to was our home. A number of them we haven't heard from, but we know that they're doing well. We know that they're doing well. So cross-cultural, what does it mean? It means exchanging ideas. It means exchanging resources. It also means exchanging your culture. Give me an example. Last one. It's in South Africa.